Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 11, I think, of Elden Ring Lore Explained. We have Typler, Peter, and Neo here today.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm back after.
So, today we will be talking about yet another child of Radagon and Renala. This one instead is the Praetor of the Kingdom of the Erdtree, the Lord of the Volcano Manor, and the Lord of Blasphemy, Rykard. Rykard's a pretty interesting guy, for various reasons, some of which I did not find out about until like 2 days ago. Yeah, so, as already mentioned, Rykard is the child of Renala and Radagon, meaning that he is one of Marika's stepchildren. While Radon gives me middle child vibes, I feel like Rykard's probably the eldest sibling. I don't know why, I just get that feeling from him.
Maybe. I always thought it was like Radon's the oldest because he seems the most. Because he seems the most famous, but I guess that doesn't.
I don't think that's a direct
Ronnie is
correlation.
definitely the youngest.
Yeah.
I think it's Radon's middle child.
For some reason, I just thought it was Radon was the oldest, Rykard is the middle child, and Ronnie is the youngest.
Rykard gives me older child vibes because he's more of the, he fits more of the, intelligent elder sibling vibe. Because, you know, he's like a fucking politician.
True.
He looks old. Like
He does look old.
He does look old.
You know, in like the 2 paintings we have of him before he turned into a giant snake monster. One of which was mid-consumption.
Yes.
So, you know, child of Radagon and Renala, we have no idea what he was doing before Radagon became Marika's new consort. He had a sword. I don't know if he would have been using that sword at all prior to that happening or after the fact of becoming Praetor. But, you know, he became Praetor and a Justicar after Radagon became King Consort, and he ruled over the Inquisition, which presumably was meant to root out and destroy people who were in opposition to the Erdtree, which, you know, there were some. I mean, this was presumably right after they just had all their big wars against the dragons and the giants. And not to mention, Rykard is a member of the family that warred against the Erdtree, so, you know, still people like that. So presumably the Inquisition was there to sort of keep all of that stuff under wraps. You know, just in case anyone else decided to try and wage war against the kingdom of the Erdtree. So he does his job. He's described by Gideon as being a ruthless Justicar, so I assume he was doing a very good job at the whole Inquisition thing. Real Spanish Inquisition shit. We know that they tortured people. We see that from, like, Giza's Wheel and stuff and all of the various things that they have in the Volcano Manor. I do think, actually, that the Omen Killers may have been part of the Inquisition, because we find at least one in the Volcano Manor. And hunting down cursed beings definitely sounds like something you would have the Inquisition do.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like they've evolved.
Oh, real quick before you go on, what the heck is a Proctor?
A Praetor, I'm glad you asked that. A Praetor is kind of similar to like a regent, I think. They are one of the guys that just kind of manages events and stuff. It's a Roman title.
The only.
Alright.
Yeah. It was mainly used by Romans.
A judicial officer who had broad authority in cases of equity was responsible for the production of the public games, and in the absence of consuls, exercised extensive authority in the government. So he was like the vice president or whatever. Or, considering this is a monarchy, I don't know, I guess he'd be kind of like the prime minister, I suppose.
Most likely.
Yeah, so he does his thing. At some point, he meets Lady Tanith, who is the masked lady you meet when you go to the Volcano Manor. She's the one kind of running things in the present. And when he met her, she was actually like an exotic dancer, like a dancer from a foreign country. And he decides to take her on as his consort. The way their relationship is described is very amusing because normally the dancer would be the one sort of enchanting people with her movements, but Rykard was the one who enchanted her, and it's described in a way almost like snake charming, which is quite ironic. Um,
That's very ironic.
yeah, so
I mean, it should be noted that demigods have been shown to have an alluring effect on people.
yeah, we know Mikola definitely had one. And Godwin was pretty popular. He even made friends with Fortisax. And that led to the dragons being on pretty solid terms with Lanedale, all things considered. Now, at some point, despite being the guy in charge of the Inquisition, Rykard starts to stray from the path a little bit. And I believe this begins somewhat early on, or at the very least a little ways before the Shattering. Mount Gelmir, the location that the Volcano Manor is built on, was the site of worship for an ancient serpent deity. And I'm assuming that the name of this serpent was Igle or Igle. The Temple of Igle is the boss room that you fight the Godskin Noble in. It has like a snake statue in there and everything. So presumably the god Devouring Serpent was by the name of Igle, and it was worshipped by people back in the day. I'm not sure what kind of gods the god Devouring Serpent used to eat. If it's like the Godskin Apostles, it was probably eating Newmen or Empyreans. But if I want to consider which one was more common, probably Newmen.
Actually, I was just wondering.
Yes, Peter.
Yeah, I was just wondering. So, did we actually know any reason why the Godskin Apostle was there?
I'm assuming it was because of the god Devouring Serpent's presence. The locations. Not all of the locations we find the apostles in seem super significant, but the two that seem most significant are the Godskin Noble in the Volcano Manor, because that's the Temple of Igle, who is the god Devouring Serpent. And then there's the Godskin Duo in Faramazula, who were presumably trying to get back the Rune of Death from Malekith.
And then you just have one random apostle in a windmill village.
And one in the tower in Caelid.
It's just kind of there.
And one at the Divine Tower in Liurnia.
Yeah.
Or that was a noble there. Yeah, some of them just kind of seem to be around. I don't know, I'm sure with time we'll be able to put much more thought and analysis into why all of the Godskin Apostles are where they are. But, the one in Volcano Manor and the duo in Faramazula seem to have the most significant placements. Or at least their placements are the most explainable. I know people think the Windmill one was there to collect skin, because some of the women there have, skin missing off of their faces.
Guess makes sense.
Yeah. Now, for some reason, presumably having to do with his growing devotion to the god-devouring serpent, Rykard decides to co-conspire with his sister Ranni in the Night of Black Knives. The exact extent of his cooperation is unknown. However, Ronnie provided him with something called the Blasphemous Claw, which he was supposed to use in case worst came to worst and he had to fight Malekith. So apparently, Rykard was indeed, something of a formidable warrior, at least. Where Ronnie was like, yeah, here you go in case you have to fight Malekith. Remember, all of the demigods were scared shitless with Malekith. Mostly because he had the Rune of Death. But also, we see this ourselves, Malekith is really strong. He is quite skilled with a sword. So if Ronnie gives Rykard, of all people, something to help him fight Malekith, then Rykard must be pretty decent himself, at the very least. And the Blasphemous Claw is what allows you to parry some of Malekith's attacks. So he must have had like a very important role in it, or a very direct role, if it was thought that Malekith may go and fight him. What I think could be possible is, as Praetor, Rykard may have had the reach and influence to be able to get Ronnie to the Rune of Death so that she could steal its power. Which I did not think of until basically right now. So I guess now we have our answer on how she did that.
Yeah, because it seems like Rykard is one of the more important demigods politically.
Yeah, he's the only one we know about who had like a real significant position in like the government of the capital. Because Godric was just a noble, just a member of the Golden Lineage, and then pretty much everyone else was just doing their own thing. Ronnie was more part of the Carian royal family. Malenia and Mikola were doing their own thing. Radahn was a general in the army, which is not really that much of a political position. And that's pretty much all of them. I guess Godwin was probably some kind of warrior. Didn't really seem like he had much of a political position. Dude didn't even have a seat on the council, apparently, as far as we can tell. So Godwin was just kind of doing stuff. Godwin didn't really have much to do with anything, I guess. He was just kind of vibing with the dragons. I don't know. Now, presumably...
Godwin is just your fantasy warrior.
Yeah, he's just there.
Godwin's just your fantasy warrior. He's like, isn't political, but just does shit.
He's present.
He's your basic D&D 5e fighter.
There you go. Well, presumably he was more of a paladin, because he used, like, lightning miracles.
Yeah.
Fair.
Presumably, the reason that Rykard co-conspired with Ronnie was because he desired to be free from the Erd Tree and the Greater Will. He and the recusants of the Volcano Manor express a great distaste for the Greater Will and want to be free of it. And their way of achieving this in their mind is by burning down the Erd Tree. It's probably why the minor Erd Tree outside the manor is burned down. They probably did that. The reason for this, like, they just kind of don't want to be controlled by something, seems to really be the primary reason. They don't like that. They find it as, like, an affront to them. They find it demeaning. I know, I think Bernhal, I think that's his name, the hammer guy from the Volcano Manor. He talks about how, like, disrespectful it is that Marika and the Greater Will have given the Tarnished and, like, a bunch of other people, like, little scraps of grace so that they can all fight for each other, fueled on by ambition, and not really achieve anything. It's almost like they're playing around with people just for their own amusement. And they're like, fuck that. We're not going to be toyed around. We're not going to be played with like puppets on strings. So it's some kind of self-determinism thing. That seems to be the path of blasphemy that Rykard was willing to walk. of disobeying the greater will and burning down the Erd Tree to be free from them. It's presumably because people may have either knew that he was involved in the Night of the Black Knives, or because he burned down the minor Erd Tree there, that the most appalling battle of the Shattering takes place at the Volcano Manor. A whole bunch of shit happens. They bring a whole bunch of crazy weapons and stuff. There's some kind of cannon thing that you can find. You can get it from the Demi-Human Queen that's on Mount Gelmir. And they talk about how, oh yeah, they brought like this crazy weapon to the assault on the Volcano Manor, only to realize no one knew how to use it.
That's great.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
So
hilarious.
stupid.
Yeah. After the Shattering happens, or during the Shattering, I guess, Rykard decides, you know what I should do? I should feed myself to the God-Devouring Serpent. Some thought process occurred in his mind, and he decided that was the best path to go about. Presumably the reason for this was to acquire more strength. If I really want to walk the path of blasphemy, I need as much power as possible. And what better power to spit in the face of God than that of the God-Devouring Serpent? So he lets himself be devoured by Igle, and he is assimilated into it. He is not full of shit. He is not insane when he says, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna eat you, and you'll become one with the Serpent King as family." No, that is literally what happens when people get eaten by the God-Devouring Serpent. They get absorbed into it. The writhing tongues and tendrils on his sword are the remains of the champions devoured by him.
Just want to clarify something. So, like, him feeding himself to the God Devouring Serpent is like the actual like blasphemous sin that he like committed.
It was either that
It,
or burning of the minor Erd
or
Tree.
because he committed
Yeah.
the cardinal sin.
Or, you know,
you know-
assisting Ronnie.
At least I.
Because
there are several things
burning
that
the
could
Erd
get
Tree is
Rykard
supposed to be the first cardinal sin, so presumably burning
Yeah.
down one of the minor Erd Trees, the offspring of the Erd Tree, would be considered blasphemy. Also, he's very explicitly going against the Erd Tree. So it may just be like, oh, you want to oppose the Erd Tree and burn it down? You're a fucking blasphemer.
There are a lot of
Actually,
things that could get Rykard that title.
Actually, in the Great Rune for Rykard, we actually see it says, hold on, let me grab it. Rykard was among the children. All right, none of that part matters. But Rykard fed himself to the blasphemous serpent, Great Rune and all, which means that the snake was considered blasphemous before he fed himself to it.
Maybe for, you know, eating gods. Usually eating
Yeah.
gods is pretty blasphemous.
Yeah, so I think that's where the Lord of Blasphemy comes in at.
But it could be one of these things or literally everything.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it's probably a mixture of all of them because obviously all these things are considered not good and probably got his title after doing all of them. I'd say.
Yeah, maybe doing all of the ungodly things gets you titled the Lord of Blasphemy. You know, otherwise he would just be like Rykard the Blasphemer. It's like, no. What's this? Yeah, opens up the Bible. I am going to violate all 10 of these commandments. Successively.
Basically, that's
Like, in succession, I will go down the list and violate all of these commandments. Well, shit. That's pretty impressive. You need, like, some kind of medal for that? Some kind of title? How about Lord of Blasphemy? There you go. Just did everything that he was not supposed to do.
I mean, to be fair, when you enter Mount Gelmir for the first time, yeah, you can very clearly see they they mean the worst battle of the Shattering, considering the fuck ton of hanged corpses.
Yeah, that's true. Now, something important about Rykard after being devoured by the Serpent is that he is not really himself anymore. Presumably due to the assimilation. It's not just Rykard, it's him and the Serpent, and a little bit of, like, all of the 100 other people that he's eaten. The ghost guy that you can find in the Volcano Manor who tells you about the Great Serpent Hunter tells you that he was pursuing this noble path of true blasphemy. But then after the serpent ate him, he just became a gluttonous beast. So, the deal with the Volcano Manor is that they feed people to Rykard so he can become more powerful. Presumably so that, you know, he can become powerful enough to take down the Erdtree. But that doesn't really seem to be, like, what he's doing. Like, he's just eating people. He just sleeps down there underneath the Volcano Manor and just eats people whenever they throw him someone. It's not that deep.
I don't know what the trigger is for that guy's quest line. Not quest line, but his quest line. But I never got it in my playthrough. So I just found the Serpent Hunter blade like inside the boss arena. It's still there. And I'm just like I'm just like, why the fuck are you sitting right like 100 yards away from the one thing that can destroy you?
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, he left it there. I guess he tried to kill Rykard and it didn't work out. And that's why he's a ghost. Because he's fucking dead.
Because he's dead.
Because
he tried to fight Rykard. But unlike the Tarnished, he is not able to keep resurrecting and fighting him for 4 hours. So...
something I was going to say.
Oh, yeah? You got something?
What was it? I'll get back to you.
Oh.
Actually don't okay.
Well, shit, I was about to say that's pretty much all on Rykard.
I suppose one thing to get into would be the fact that being devoured by the blasphemous serpent causes death of the body and not the spirit.
That's important, actually.
Yeah.
That's something of note.
Pretty much the same thing. Similar situation with Godwin, like, yeah, his body is dead, but no.
We know spirit summons are not... Spirit summons are people that their souls were not able to return to the Erdtree, so they just kind of linger. It's not necessarily something to do with the Rune of Death. Because we know there's, like, ritual death. Like, the spirits that guard the mausoleums and stuff, the headless spirits, those were people that chose to live in death to protect the mausoleums. So they chose to sacrifice their bodies so that their spirits could protect the mausoleums. So it is possible for, like, specific ways of dying to have an influence on people. Or like the noble ghost in the Morn Castle, talking about how if he gets eaten by the demi-humans, he probably won't return to the Erdtree or something, because he's a noble. Or, I don't think he actually said that. I think maybe that was, like, maybe a reason why he was so against it. It's like, oh, I'm of noble blood, I can't let them eat me. Because that may, I don't know, sully his soul or something. So, the God-devouring serpent, as we can tell, has a bit of a weird physiology. You know, it's not really normal. When it consumes someone, it literally can absorb their spirits as well. It's interesting, maybe the ghost guy didn't get eaten. He just got, like, crushed or something. Because we can get killed by Rykard without getting eaten. You can get destroyed by that dumb volcano wave attack. Or the poison shit.
Eats you afterwards.
If there's anything left. Some of these attacks would just, like, obliterate the human body.
Yeah,
Actually, most of these attacks would obliterate the human body.
Right. They don't. Isn't, like, in FromSoft games, like, death and respawning is, like, canonical?
Yes. The reason the Tarnished respawn is because the Rune of Death is not in play, and the Erdtree and Greater Will are just like, yeah, you can just keep coming back. Like just keep coming back until you win. Because that's what I want you to do.
Basically.
Right. Does that separate? Is there anything separating the Tarnished that we play from the Tarnished that usually get eaten by Rykard?
Not anything specific. And also the Tarnished, the champions eaten by Rykard are not necessarily Tarnished. They just say, oh, champions. Though presumably he has eaten quite a few Tarnished.
Right.
That might play a factor. I don't know. It is, of course, interesting that, like, Rykard takes over. Like, he gets a face on the God-Devouring Serpent and is able to, like, get some degree of control sometimes, but not really anyone else. Probably because he was a demigod with a great rune.
Also, probably because he was willing.
Though you would have to
suppose...
wonder, like, if the God-Devouring Serpent eats straight-up gods instead of just demigods, wouldn't it have like 1,000,000 faces by now or something?
It might be
Maybe.
it might be like because he was willing. Like he was like, "Oh yes, please consume."
Yeah, it may have been
like,
his expressed
same,
desire
like,
to merge
goals,
with
I
it,
guess.
and it could have been because of the Great Rune.
Doesn't the Tarnished have a bit of grace now?
Yeah,
Could that
we are
be it?
given grace, and that is why we come back.
Yeah.
Like the Omen, when they die, their souls don't go back to the Erdtree because they don't have grace. Since we have grace, we pretty much get like instantly reincarnated by the Erdtree. It just throws us back into the same body and pops us out at a site of grace.
Yeah. Mostly.
Perhaps the Erdtree.
I also do remember what I was
Well,
going to say.
have-
I was just, yeah. Was what's it called? Like, there's a lot of like parallels, I guess. Like Rykard and Aldrich from Dark Souls 3.
There are quite a few, yeah.
Yeah. And also, you did mention something about puppets, and I found that interesting because obviously, like, Ronnie is in the form of like a doll.
And there are puppet things that
so I'm not sure
Saluvis
if that's like an
makes.
intentional thing. Yeah.
Oh, I
not
suppose
sure if
that's
that's, like,
why
an
those
intentional,
things are
like-
at the Volcano Manor, is
Yeah.
because Ronnie gave them to him. Oh, it's all coming together now. It's all making sense now.
Yeah.
Visual storytelling.
I was kind of like, I was wondering to myself, like, yeah, if Rykard helped out with it, and he's called a blasphemer, then I wonder why Ronnie's reputation isn't sold. And then I'm like, oh right, yeah, everyone
Because
thinks
Ronnie's
she's
fucking dead, and no one else knew that she was involved in it.
dead. Yeah, and then I'm like, oh wait,
I
yeah, Ronnie
even
killed
question
himself,
how many
that's-
people actually knew, because you think they would state, he was like, yeah, he committed the grave sin of blasphemy and co-conspired in the Night of Black Knives, or specified that's what it was. You would think they would do that, because that's really fucking significant. You don't find out about his involvement until you complete Bernhal's quest line.
I suppose another thing to mention is, what is the origin of the snake people?
Presumably they are related to the God-Devouring Serpent. That may also be why the Godskin Noble was there, because the Godskin Apostles seem to be snake people.
I did not pick up. Oh yeah, they did stretch.
Many interesting connections between all of the God-slaying people.
Sounds like another
so maybe-
another video for one day.
The Godskin Apostles and the Glowmide Queen are gonna be a video at some point.
Yeah, so perhaps Glowmide Queen does have a connection with the God-Devouring Serpent and so
Yeah,
on.
maybe she fucked it or something. Per mythological precedent, people fucking things that they should not be able to. I mean, hey, we have Malekith as Marika's half-brother, so anything's possible.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the Glow-Eyed Queen was apparently also an Empyrean, just like Marika. Well, anyway, I think that's pretty much all we have to say about Rykard. Weird guy, that Snake Man. Very good voice acting, though. I don't know how the fuck... Like, I watched a video of the voice actor, like, recreating the lines, but it wasn't an exact recreation. I guarantee you they had to go through quite a few takes for those lines. I don't know how... I don't know what kind of directing they gave. What's his name? Simon Gregor or something? I don't know what kind of directing they had to give him for those lines, but, like, holy shit. Yeah, very good. Very good work. So yeah, that's pretty much all for today's video. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. We do Elden Ring Lore Explained episodes every Tuesday and Saturday, and sometimes we'll have the occasional Friday, depending on what's going on. So thank you all for watching. Until next time, I'll see you around. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.